Brandon Gaudin, the Atlanta Braves television play-by-play announcer for Bally Sports South, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Brandon, first off, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the kind introduction and appreciate you having me on.
We appreciate you coming on. Introduce you obviously as Braves play-by-play announcer because that's where we see your work the most. But as Chris pointed out earlier, you are also the voice of Madden. And I imagine there's a good faction of folks that know you better from that than this.
And thankfully they don't have to see my face. You know, during a Braves telecast, you're subjected to at least 30 seconds of seeing this face at the beginning of every broadcast. But Madden is voice only. So yeah, but I've been doing that since 2017. Charles Davis of CBS is the analyst, and we've been having a blast with it for the last 7 years. But getting this job last season with the Braves on Bally was my dream job, because this is the team that I grew up following and rooting for. And so it's an honor and a privilege to be able to sit in that chair every night.
Well, between that and getting to hang out with CD on a regular basis, things probably don't get a whole lot better. But you also do some Big Ten basketball.
Yes, I'm in the middle of basketball season right now. Most of what I do is Big Ten, some Big East. It's whatever rights Fox has. So Fox doesn't have any ACC or SEC. They have Big Ten, Big East, and a little Pac-12. And so those are the conferences that I cover. So yeah, right now I'm traversing through the Midwest, trying to avoid the snow. Was in Madison last week, and I'll be headed to Iowa here on Thursday for a game Friday night between them and Ohio State. So that's all keeping me busy. And then before you know it, we'll blink and we'll be headed down to Northport in March to cover the last few telecasts there before the Braves kick things off March 28th in Philly.
Looks like you're going to have a new sidekick this time around.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, look, Jeff Francoeur, who's been the lead analyst the last few years and with me last year, is tremendous. Everybody knows and loves Jeff. Not only incredibly gifted on air, but just fun, engaging, just a great guy to be around. We're both the same age, born a couple weeks apart. So we just had a lot in common and we had a blast. But Jeff has 4 young kids, and Jeff wants to be around those kids. He has the financial flexibility to be able to do that because of his days playing Major League Baseball. And so I'm happy for him. He's taken a step back. He's still going to be doing about 25 to 30 games. So people will still see quite a bit of Jeff Francoeur on the Braves telecast. But being the lead analyst now is CJ Nitkowski, longtime Major League reliever, who for the last 7 seasons was the lead analyst for the Texas Rangers, who obviously just won the World Series. But this was a job CJ had his eye on because he and his wife and their family have lived in Atlanta for the better part of 2 decades. So he was having to do those Rangers telecasts while traveling all over the country. Every game was a road game for him. Now, half of his games are home games. He's a tremendous on-air talent. I've gotten to know him, and he's a wonderful person, and I cannot wait to work with him.
We're all excited about, hearing new voices on the telecast. I think obviously getting fresh thoughts and stuff from different broadcasters is always fun. And the way that you guys have done it over the last couple of years with so many great analysts joining you has just been fantastic. And it's always better to hear Brandon Gaudin than anyone else that we might have to listen to call Braves games on any other network. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago, I saw something about the ESPN Sunday night schedule for the first few weeks, and somebody was complaining about only one Braves game. And I'm like, hey, that's only one time I got to listen to ESPN. The rest of the time I get Brandon. I'm good. I'm good with that. Yeah,
at least you guys and my mother feel that way. I don't know how many other people do, but
trust me.
But
a lot of people do. A lot of people do. Really enjoyed your first season, and you said it was your dream job. I said in the first segment it was your dream job. Referred to your letter to Skip Carey when you were a youngster in Evansville. Relative to that, I mean, they say don't meet your heroes, but how did this first year live up to your expectations?
Yeah, it lived up to it, and it was exceeded some. When I took the job, I knew, because of all the things that we've discussed and my history with the Braves as a fan and how passionate I was about broadcasting and Braves baseball, even if the Braves had only won 30 games, I still would have really enjoyed last season. The fact that they won 104 and set every record known to man offensively was the icing on the cake. Now, look, obviously, we know the season did not end as I wanted, as you guys wanted, as anybody in a Braves uniform or anybody cheering on the Braves wanted. We get that. And we didn't broadcast the postseason, so I was enduring those painful losses as a fan, just like everybody else. But for me, the regular season and how great I think the guys were in the clubhouse, on the bus, on the plane, in the hotel, what you see and what you hear about is kind of what you get. There really is a solid clubhouse core and a group of guys that love to play baseball, but also love each other, and a tremendous group of leaders and men. And so when you factor that with the wins and everything else going on, it just made for a magical season. And then you look at how the Braves have really most of these guys, especially the position players, locked up in long-term deals. I mean, this is a team and a franchise that is built not just to win in 2023 and 2024, but 25, 26, 27, and for years to come. So I think it's hard to be objective. Obviously, now I'm biased, but it's hard to look objectively at Major League Baseball and say that the Braves aren't right now the team that is built the best to win in the next 5 years. And so it makes it a very exciting place to call work and to broadcast these games.
Well, even last over the weekend when Spencer Strider said, "Look, it's World Series or bust for this team," and I feel like that's the attitude that this team has to have. And when you're around these guys on a daily basis, do you get that feeling that they really not only do they put that pressure, but they carry that pressure and obviously perform under it?
Yeah, and I think Spencer Strider is exactly right. I don't think anybody in that clubhouse would run from that. Some people might scoff at that and say, "Oh, it's an unfair expectation." And to ask a team to win a World Series every year, of course, that's an unfair expectation. But when you look at what the Braves have, you say, "Look, this is the team that has the best chance to get it done because it has the best roster, top to bottom." Those players know that. You can't run from that. You either are a competitor and you embrace it and you go after it, or you hide in a hole. And these are guys that are going to embrace it and go after it. And I respect that Alex Anthopoulos, who's at the top of the food chain, even though he doesn't play, but he sets that tone. I mean, he has said several times since the end of last season that, yeah, that postseason finish wasn't good enough. 104 wins was great, but we expect to win in the postseason. And he knows that. And some people wanted a top-end starting pitcher. Most of Braves country did in the offseason. And we'll see what Chris Sale can bring to the table. He's kind of the new man in the starting rotation who at one point in time was one of the best pitchers in the game. I mean, he made 7 straight All-Star games, and he was all 7 of those years, I believe, he finished in the top 6 in the Cy Young voting, which is just absolutely insane consistency. Now, the naysayer would look at that and say, yes, but since 2020, he's had injuries, and he has. And so his time in Boston ended on a sour note. But he's still 34, and Charlie Morton's still pitching well at 40. So hopefully Chris Sale can stay healthy this year and provide the Braves another starting pitcher to help once they get late in the season into September and then into October in the postseason.
It's hard to believe that Chris Sale is only 34 years old, for one thing, because it feels like he's been around forever. But Brandon Gaudin, Atlanta Braves television play-by-play announcer for Bally Sports, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Brandon, arguably the biggest regular season game of the year last year, you didn't get to call.
But I enjoyed it.
I was going to say, how do you watch that?
Where were you at home? Where were you?
Right behind you. Yeah. On this couch back here, watching it on my television. A lot of people have asked me about that game because it was against the Mets. It was, as you said, probably the most exciting finish last year. There were several walk-offs, but that Ozzie Albies homer in front of a packed crowd to beat nobody else other than the Mets in a dramatic back and forth affair it was scintillating. It was awesome. And a lot of people have asked me, do you wish that you had been in the booth with those 4 guys? Well, sure, that would have been great. But I truly mean it when I say that I sat on that couch and I loved every minute of that broadcast because I took myself back to being an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. And those guys, Chipper, Smoltzy, and Glavin, and then Jeff later, and now becoming a friend and a broadcast partner. But those three Hall of Famers, those are guys that I idolized. And hearing them tell stories of their playing days, of when I used to watch the Braves nightly on TBS and be serenaded by Skip Carey on the mic, I just was a kid again, and I loved it. I loved the old footage they rolled in. It was like the best mixture of old school and new school Atlanta Braves baseball, and we got that in one telecast, and I thought it was tremendous. Now, they did it again later in the year, and I still thought it was great. You just didn't have the Hollywood ending that they did that first go-around with a win over the Mets. But it was tremendous theater, tremendous television. Our production crew, headed up by our producer, Gretchen Caney, did an incredible job setting the table for all of that. So even though I wasn't in the booth, I was happy to be on my couch with popcorn and Coke in hand and watching that game and watching the Braves win.
Popcorn and Coke.
Coke.
Not a crown.
Well, only one person had a crown that night.
Not a crown that night. Yeah. Brandon, what few changes this offseason? The biggest one to me, obviously, is we're not going to look over in that third base coaching box and see 37. I would imagine that's pretty impactful for you as well.
It is. Ron Washington and EY, Eric Young at first base. It's hard to explain what those guys meant to the team and to the players, and in particular the infielders and the base stealers that those guys spent so much time with. When I would get done with watching batting practice every day, whether it was at home or on the road, and you would go underneath the locker room and into the tunnel toward the clubhouse, always, 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 you would see Wash and EY sitting there talking with everybody that came past, sharing wisdom, sharing stories, talking about the opponent, talking about life. And there's that intangible that they say in a clubhouse of chemistry that some people roll their eyes at, but it's a real thing. The Braves will continue to have it, but they lost a big piece of that chemistry with EY and certainly with Wash. And they called Wash the infield whisperer because of how good he was at teaching those young guys how to play the infield. You see the strides, I think, in particular, that Austin Riley has made defensively at third base, and he attributes a lot of that to Ron Washington. But so you married such a great coach with such a great person, such a great clubhouse presence. I am thrilled for him. I think he deserved another opportunity to manage. He's going to get that with the Angels, and I hope that they turn it around, and I hope he has a lot of success there. But we would all be lying if we tried to minimize the impact that he had in Atlanta. He was tremendous, and he will be missed.
I just don't know who's going to work with you on your base stealing now that EY is gone.
Well, that has nowhere to go but up. That was, for those who didn't see my pathetic slide, I'm glad you didn't see my pathetic slide.
They only showed it 37 times in a row.
Oh my gosh. I praised our producer earlier.
I was going to say.
They would roll that in, and every time, so in your ear when they're going to roll in a piece of video that, hey, we're going to show Chipper's home run from the 1996 playoffs, whatever, and they would always tell me something fake. Hey, we're going to show this, this, and this, and then it would be that stupid slide. And I was just like, oh, guys, not again. Can we just bury that, burn that footage, and not bring it back?
No. No, we can't. Oh, man.
I love that. You know, Brandon, one of the things that you talk about Skip and whatnot, I'm just going to ask, next time we're in a rain delay, I need you to throw it to some Andy Griffith. Can we just play Andy Griffith during the rain delays? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, if Bally had the rights to it, I would. Man, I remember in the 90s when there would be a rain delay. First of all, I'd be so mad because I just wanted to watch the Braves. And when there would be rain and they would go. So, but that is also how I fell in love with the Andy Griffith Show, because I would watch those, and after every episode, they would go back to the park and Skip would give an update. Hey, the tarp's still on and we'll be back in 30 minutes. But I would watch those Andy Griffith shows just because I was waiting for Braves baseball. And so I started to like that show because of the Braves. It's funny.
Well, Brandon, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, and we greatly appreciate you taking some time with us. If you were looking out, at this 2024 season, what is your big prediction? What do you expect to see out of this team? Maybe a hot take of some sort for this 2024 Braves team.
I'll give you a couple. First of all, I don't really think it's a hot take. I think the Braves are the favorites to win the World Series, and I understand what the Dodgers have done, but it's their roster doesn't fit the way the Braves roster fits. Yes, they've got Ohtani. We get that. We know what they did, how much money they spent, all of that. Are they a good team? Of course, they're an amazing team. But to me, top to bottom, the Braves are the team to beat, and I'll take them against the field to win the World Series. I'm curious to see the two pieces. How Jared Kelenic, a young prospect who was at one point in time one of the hottest prospects in baseball, how he transitions in left field. He got injured last year in Seattle, but he's still just 24 years of age. I think the Braves are banking on him making a lion's share of the starts out there in left. So he's the one question mark in the lineup, but certainly he has a lot of potential. And then how does Chris Sale work into the starting rotation, and can he stay healthy? If those two guys even have just average seasons, the Braves are just as good as they were last year. If they have above average seasons, the Braves, as scary as it sounds, could be even better than last year. And then the final prediction I would make is I think the Braves have the Cy Young winner this year. I don't know whether that's Strider or whether that's Max Fried, but if Fried stays healthy and Strider continues to stay healthy, that's as good of a 1-2 punch as you're going to find in the game of baseball. And I think one of those guys wins the Cy Young in 2024.
How many bases does Ronald steal this year?
Can he go over what he did last year? I think he's plus 70 again. The question for me is, can he have a 50-50 season, which most people for the longest time have just thought is impossible, and understandably so. It's never been done, but 40-70 had never been done. So I think Ronald can do 50-50. If it's not this year, at some point in the next few.
Wow, goodness.
Wow.
Can't wait to watch you call almost all of those. We appreciate it. We'll let you get to your errands. We know you got an unfortunate appointment coming up after this.
Yeah.
Never fun to go see the dentist, but it is what it is.
You got to do it. I got to do
do
these things in the off season, because once the end of March hits, I don't have time for them, but that's for a good reason. So, but guys, I appreciate you having me. Thanks very much. And hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Sounds good to us. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Again, that's the Bally, Braves on Bally.
Braves on Bally.
Play-by-play voice of the Atlanta Braves.
And the 2023 National Sports Media Association Georgia Sportscaster of the Year.
Always fun.